Don't watch that. Watch this.
I mean, we're very intense together. You know, we were like constantly philosophizing, arguing, laughing, dancing. You know, it was just like we were in our own little world. We didn't really look at the outside world.
Oh, what fun we had, but did it really turn out bad? All I learned at school was how to bend, not break the rules.
As I said, we always had a way of working things out between one another, and that's what's kept us going for a very long time.
Madness are so self-contained as a unit of great songwriting, great pop videos, and become the most successful singles band of the 1980s.
My girl's mad at me. I didn't want to see the film tonight.
Madness were pretty much a gang. Everything was meant to be entertaining and amusing, but it didn't mean that you didn't say certain things, you just couched them in different terms.
This summer has been the sudden emergence of a new and forceful independent record company called Two Tone. Their first hit was The Specials' Gangsters, followed by The Prince from Madness.
Just chaos. But, you know, we're thriving chaos. It was brilliant.
Instantaneously, the British music press adopted this thing called two-tone.
Together, they've spawned a revolution in musical taste, a fusion of Jamaican blue beat and British punk.
And that movement, it hit British playgrounds like a tsunami.
It's time to welcome one of Britain's best-loved bands. They've sold millions of records, packed venues throughout the world, and now they're playing on the roof of Buckingham Palace. Go crazy for Madness!
Madness, they call it madness. Madness, madness, they call it madness. It's plain to see that is what they mean to me. Madness, madness, I call it gladness.
The police phoned the British Geological Survey and they said that people had been phoning in saying that there'd been an earthquake in London. It was an intensity of about 5.
Yeah, they were evacuating blocks of flats because people thought they were going to fall down. And it was just Madness fans jumping up and down, you know.
When I told the police that I thought the cause of the disturbance was a Madness concert at Finsbury Park, they didn't believe me at first. And I got a phone call the next night from the police who said exactly the same felt effects had occurred. And so they did believe me after all. So, so my reputation as a seismologist still remains intact.
In 1992, Finsbury Park was that we hadn't played for 8 years. You know, we'd kind of split up. But we hadn't officially split up. We just sort of drifted apart. And the plan was to do a concert that was to celebrate our career and our fans and to say to them, thank you very much, you know, it's all over, but we didn't say it properly. Now we're going to say it properly. So we booked to play on the Saturday and it sold out, 35,000 people. They said, we'll put it on sale for the Sunday, and that sold out. So it was a big shock to all of us that still there was this love for the band, which kind of felt it had gone away, but it wasn't, it was there.
It's moments like that you realise that what you mean to people, I think, because the crowd reaction was fantastic, and it was just it was a bit scary, a bit sort of tearful, and but incredibly kind of joyous as well at the same time.
We were friends, a lot of us, from being at school, you know, and I think that we did become some kind of dysfunctional family. A lot of us came from broken homes, what we used to say in England, one-parent family or whatever. And we went on this journey together, yeah, and so there was always a lot of tolerance. I mean, we were in a pretty rough part of the world. We were pretty rough kids, and, you know, you could see sort of crossroads with some of your mates going into crime and all that, and various other options, boxing and sport, which I never had the dedication for. But there was this slight chance for music, you know. Mike, our keyboard player, and Chris, our guitarist, I remember going, well, look, we could take it a bit seriously. But it wasn't like we were looking to be famous. We just were looking for something to do that wasn't stealing money out of phone boxes or cigarettes from newsagents.
Well, this is the Dublin Castle, and this is the pub where Madness, or the Invaders as we were called then, got our first residency, which is to say we played every Friday night, I think maybe for a couple of months. And it's really, you know, if maybe the Beatles got their thing going in Hamburg, this was our version of it. Except without the girls.
Of course he had to be fed. I had to give him a bed. He used to keep on my sofa. I used to call him a loafer.
I never sung in my life in any real capacity. My mum was a singer, and I certainly didn't get anything from her because she was really good. She was a jazz singer. But I had some charisma. You know, we all had charisma. That's the thing. You know, around where we were, every one of the band was kind of famous for their own individual personality, and I was. We were just playing in pubs, doing covers like every other band, finding more and more that music got people going. And you learnt how to play, and you learnt what people liked, you know, and that's how you started to, you know, organise what you thought was the progress of where the band wanted to go. And more we found that ska was really working live. And we were very lucky that it started quite quickly. And then obviously the two-tone thing happened so fast. We were suddenly on this, like, sort of jet plane that was flying much faster than we realised very quickly.
Here I am, Adrian Thrills, cub reporter with New Musical Express on my way up from London to Coventry, home of the Rudies. The assignment, to check out the Two Tone organisation, the fastest growing independent record label in the country.
I got to give credit to my father. I was born in Jamaica. Sir Winston Churchill talked to the West Indian Island, come to England to rebuild England after the last World War. The Windrush generation, my father's part of that crew. And they come over here, rebuilt England, because Coventry was an industrial city. All the big car for Jag, Triumph, Peugeot, they're all here, you know, Coventry, so there's plenty of work.
The thousands of West Indians who moved here in the 50s and 60s imported their own culture. Bluebeat and reggae were played in clubs and private houses almost every night, often all night long.
Right there. Straight upstairs, all right? This is where the assault on the nation's airwaves was planned, with a unique mix of punk and reggae.
What an amazing combination. Jerry from a middle-class background, totally different background.
Jerry, the history, Jerry.
Me from rural Jamaica, boy up in the hills, you know, run around, only wear shoes on Sundays when we go to church. You know, come to England. You know, I remember when the sound system and all that, right? That's my culture, that's where I'm coming from.
The importance of Jamaican culture and Jamaican music into British culture goes exactly to the Windrush and the various ships that came from the Caribbean islands, when after the cities of Britain had been flattened by the Luftwaffe, the British government appealed to its citizens and said, come back to the motherland. And obviously when those people came, with them, these people, they settled, they had relationships in England, or they brought their families over. And then the first, second generation kids, British kids, who had Jamaican clothing or had adopted Jamaican clothing, had their families' records, infiltrated with British kids in schools and in youth clubs, particularly in the 1970s. There was a confluence of the influence of Caribbean island influence, not just Jamaican, but across the different islands. And so you get bands like The Clash and like The Ruts, and then very quickly after the two-tone bands, where it's a collaboration of first-generation Caribbean kids mixing with white English, and then you get this new genre called British ska.
I remember the first time we met the Specials. It was in a pub called the Hope and Anchor. And it had a basement that held 40 people. And I saw all sorts of bands. I mean, really, I saw the Pretenders, I saw Dire Straits, but only 2 numbers. They were very long, mind. Jesus, can I go for a piss? Sultans or whatever. And then these guys came in wearing tonic suits and pork pie hats. And they were from Coventry. And I didn't know whether to feel jealous or sort of that we were on the right track. But on stage, they were amazing. You know, Neville Staples blowing holes in the ceiling with a starting pistol. And they were jumping about and so lively. And suddenly we realised there was someone else out there. It was like aliens coming from another planet. What? And dressed like us? Where have you come from? It's like the Twilight Zone. Someone's replicated us. We don't really exist.
We both come from the same roots, you know? So the roots, the brands might go off that way a little bit, the brands might go off that way, but the foundation, because as I said, the foundation, Prince Buster.
One step beyond.
You know, what an important part of our lives, you know. We got our name from one of his records. Our first hit was One Step Beyond, which was the B-side is Al Capone, which what the Specials turned into Gangsters. And then our first hit was The Prince, which was a homage to Prince Buster. Anyway, so he was a very important part of our lives.
That linked us together. And obviously with the dress code and everything, right? I mean, that was it.
We looked very similar to one another and we liked the same things. And we just felt that then we had to check them out. And they came and played in London at the Hope and Anchor. And that's where Suggs and Mike managed to get in and saw them and talked to Jerry. And that's where the link started between the two bands, really.
They were down from Coventry. The best chance you had of finding a place to sleep was pulling a bird, as we used to. I don't think you're allowed to say that anymore. Finding a young lady and talking to her nicely. But Jerry Downs had no teeth. With teeth like that, he ended up sleeping on my mum's sofa in my flat in Tottenham Court Road at the time. And me and Jerry were just sitting there, and I found a cassette of what we were doing, and it was terrible. But he said, look, if you keep going, I'm going to start a record label, and I want it to be an English Motown. And I said, Jerry, isn't that a smidge optimistic, seeing you just played to 35 people in a pub basement? An English Motown. Anyway, about 4 months later, he phoned me up and he says, I have. He says, have you got anything a bit better than that cassette? And in fact, we'd just been to Pathway, this studio in Stoke Newington, and done some demos, and one of them was the song The Prince.
What's your...
Sorry, mate.
Clyde.
So,
What's happening then?
well, Woody ain't here. That's what's happening. Oh. Got lost on his motorbike, on his new motorbike.
We were waiting to get in, waiting for Woody, because Woody was on his little motorbike, and he didn't turn up.
Hey, mate, you know where Pathway Recording Studios is? Where? No, never heard of it, mate.
We were supposed to come to Pathway, but Woody got lost, our drummer got lost and never made it here. And even within those few weeks of missing the first recording session but coming back, we kind of got better, and the Prince sounded better as well. Probably a lot to do with Clive Langer as well, who'd started to come to rehearsal sometimes and like listen to the songs and make suggestions about the arrangements.
Buster, he sold the heat with a rock steady beat. An earthquake is erupting, but not in Orange Street. A ghost dance is preparing, you got to help us with your feet. If you're not in the mood to dance, step back, grab yourself a seat. This might not be uptown Jamaica, but we promise you a treat. About to throw me over with your bogus stones, shovel me off my feet. Even if I kept on running.
We played Jerry the Prince, and he said, yeah, I want to put it out on my new label, Two Tone.
Throw me over with your bogus days, shuffle me off my feet. Even if I kept on running, I'd never get to Orange Street.
And that was it. It was their first single. It was a hit record, so I was a producer, you know.
So all of a sudden we were on this trajectory together, and it was becoming a phenomenon, you know, everywhere, all around the country. Suddenly kids were all into this kind of music and the way we dressed and all the rest of it.
You've done too much too young. You're married with a kid when you could be having fun with me. Oh, no, don't give me no more business. You've done too much too young. You're married with a son when you should be having fun with me. We don't want no more business.
Before Two Tone came to prominence in 1979, the summer of 1979, there was a great sense of a rising of right-wing factions politically and socially. The streets of Britain became more and more a scene of confrontation between what was then the National Front, or the British National Party, and anti-fascists and the anti-Nazi League, and police on the streets, violence. And that was all really building up to the 1979 general election, when the Conservative Party and Margaret Thatcher were coming to power. The birth of Two Tone was really a new consideration of conscience, of social conscience and political conscience, reflecting street violence and offering an alternative in something positive. That positivity was to be felt in dancing and in the coming together of different people of gender and race.
If 5 p.m. and you're on your way home, it's another day with that endless great song. 3-minute hero, I wanna be. 3-minute hero, I wanna be. To the red, night, glad expression. You the wrong impression. 'Cause really I'm sad. Oh, sadder than sad. Look, I heard and I want you so bad. Like a cry, I feel to be glad.
Two Tone strikes again. The Body Snatchers, their first time on Top of the Pops, and let's do Rocksteady. They can snatch my body anytime.
I'm mixed race, so inevitably I was, in that instant, anti-racist. And it was something I could get behind, but it's not as if it was something that I just come across and just thought about, because we'd had Rock Against Racism, for goodness sake. And I'd been going, you know, that's something that I'd come across and got behind prior to Two Tone Records being set up. And to be honest, until I actually went to Coventry or went to the Midlands, I didn't even understand really what the big deal was, because where I lived, there were black and white people working together and living together and, like, you know, going along about their business side by side, and had been for years.
We was fighting racism every day. You know, it was like a pitched battle every day, going to the city centre. You know, God, I was going for a night out, come out, I'm still alive, you know?
I'm going out tonight. I don't know if I'll be alright. Everyone wants to hurt me, too much danger in the city. I had to carry a knife because there's people threatening my life. I can't dress just the way I want. I'll be chased by the National Hunt. Concrete jungle, animals are after me. Concrete jungle, it ain't safe on the street. Concrete jungle, glad I got my mistress in.
I know that I'm black. You know you're white. You know, I don't hate you. Why do you hate me? Because of the color of my skin? I don't get you. You wanna, you know, do you think by taking my life, your life will be extended? You could die tomorrow.
Well, Roddy, what do you think of this tape?
No, who is it?
It's the Specials.
This is so crazy. When we did the two-tone tour together, us, the Selector, Madness, I mean, what a time we had.
Because everyone travelled together in one coach, and going through the experience of watching that snowball, you know, every gig was wilder, every gig was starting to sell out. You know, the people were just getting on stage every night. It always ended in chaos, you know, but it was a very good kind of fun chaos.
Madness's place in two-tone was beginning to be undermined by a racist skinhead following. As the only white band on the label, Madness became an easy target for the National Front, who co-opted their gigs for recruitment purposes.
Oh, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible to have that. There was the one gig in Hemel Hempstead, which was absolutely terrible, where people stormed through the doors and just started randomly attacking people going to the gig, which was terrible. I mean, I will say that there was a lot of that going on at the time, not just two-tone gigs, but every gig. I mean, there was just a lot of horrible people around.
I mean, primarily what we do is just get a spotlight, you know, and just point it on people who were zig-eying or fighting or anything. But it was very tumultuous, you know, it was a bit scary. But, you know, we were quite scary as well, so let's be fair. A lot of skinheads latched onto us, but having said that, they were latching onto the Specials as well. It was just totally bizarre, you know, that they couldn't see what was in front of their faces.
Concert, and they got it on the Zika. Oh, you know, this time when me and Neville and Jerry got on the stage, got these guys, give them a few slap around the head, throw them out, and get back on the stage and carry on playing.
This one, it's a message to you all, message to you.
What a way to deliver a message where it says, a message to you, Rudy, stop your messing around. You better think of your future. Time to straighten right out, else you'll wind up in jail. As to everyone who youth growing up, who were having a problem, it's a message to you.
Stop your messing around. Better think of your future.
A lot of people said to me, there's a new band called Madness, ska band, which they were at the time, that would be good for Stiff. And they weren't playing at the time. They had no shows, and I don't sign anybody unless I meet them and see them. So I was getting married at the same time, and so I thought, you know, I could do two things at once. I could get married and I could get a band for my wedding.
Hello, I am the governor of the Dublin capital. You are? Well, this is my girl. I have a gig now.
So that was the very first time I saw them was at that wedding. And there was a good crowd, a stiff crowd. Elvis Costello, Ian Dury, and a lot of other kind of musicians as well as regular stiff people. So they were good. And I went into the dressing room before we started and said if there was going to be any problems, I would be really uptight. I would, you know, I had a baseball bat, which I'd be very happy to bring in here, and I'll kill anybody who irritates my wife.
I tried and tried, but I could not be heard. Why can't I explain? Why do I feel this pain? 'Cause everything I say, she doesn't understand. She doesn't realise. She takes it all the wrong way.
I remember Chaz got Elvis Costello up to dance, and that was kind of funny. People found that very amusing, you know.
I think it's partly what you brought up earlier. It was a very much Midlands thing, you know, in England, and we were definitely not part of that. And the two-tone label was building, more and more bands were joining it, and it was kind of getting its own momentum. And we just felt like we just wanted to do something a bit different, yeah. And it was just by chance, you know, that we found Stiff Records, an independent record label, you know, with one guy that you could talk to and do whatever you want, rather than some, you know, great big corporate record company. And at that time, you know, Stiff had Elvis Costello, Ian Dury, The Damned, Kirsty MacColl, Nick Lowe, you know, all artists that we really loved. A lot of maverick people who probably wouldn't have survived on another record label. So it was perfect for us. And, yeah, it was just a natural progression. It wasn't like we didn't like two-tone. We had to give them every credit for getting to where we had got, but we just felt that we wanted to do something that wasn't two-tone.
The reason why we signed to Stiff was Dave Robinson was incredibly confident in letting us make an album straight away. He just said, there's no problem, we'll just go and make an album. And we loved that we loved him giving the confidence, you know, to us to go and do that.
They were an interesting kind of bunch. There was a lot of chat, you know, a lot of toing and froing. Years later, I discovered that George Martin signed the Beatles because of their chat rather than their music. But with Madness, I heard a lot of songs in there. I heard, you know, and they were tight. They played them well, and they showed them off very well. They kind of exposed them well. So that's what you're looking for. You know, if you're running a record company, you're looking for something that could work quickly.
You know, 10 days, I think, we recorded our first album. And it was in the same studio that the Specials had recorded their album. And it was like you could still feel the sort of ganja in the room that they'd only just left. And I remember I was with Alan Winstanley, who worked with Clive Langer as the engineer, and we found a bit of tape on the floor, and we said, quick, let's listen to what the Specials sound like. Maybe it's going to be an orchestra, or I don't know, what are they doing? So we got this bit of tape, and we pressed play, and it just went, bong. It was just a drum. That was it. So we knew what the drum sounded like. But I don't remember it being particularly I mean, maybe Dave Robinson was driving us. You know, I was just happy to be in the studio making a record. You know what I mean? I wasn't thinking about the specials. I was just happy to be doing music.
Dave was going, look, you know, their release date is this date. If we hurry up, we can release our records either a week before or on the same date. And so there was a competition created there. There's competition, you know, healthy competition, but they were all friends.
Hey, you! Don't watch that! Watch this! This is the heavy, heavy monster sound!
One Step Beyond was just like a sort of intro. I think we were only doing about a minute of the song. We didn't play the whole thing. It was just when we came on stage. Before that, we were doing Hawaii 5-0. Book him down. And it was just a sort of joke. And then we changed it to One Step Beyond.
I'd really like to have them. And there's the first single, One Step Beyond, and a good title for an album. I thought, I wasn't aware at the time that it was Prince Buster music. I didn't know. I thought it was theirs, and I was very impressed with it. I went to the studio when they had finished recording, and no One Step Beyond. So, so I said, well, where's the track? That's the first single. They said, well, it's not really. We don't think it's the first single, and we don't want to do it.
Dave said, you've got to make that into a single. But because we'd done The Prince, which is a homage to Prince Buster, we thought, well, now we're doing a cover of Prince Buster. It's going to sound like we're a covers Prince Buster band.
And I said, well, you have to do it. It's, you know, it's the name of your album, possibly. So they eventually went in and they did a 1 minute, 25-second version of it, which, you know, and I got somebody to do an edit, and we turned it into a longer song.
And that became the single. That became a massive hit all around the world.
One step beyond!
The fact that I could pick it and I could make it into a hit meant that they allowed me from then on to pick the singles. So our relationship blossomed from that very early beginning.
It just was difficult to get all 7 of us into a photograph, so we just found if we all squashed up, it'd be easier, like a sandwich. But it was just, I don't know, complete abstract.
They had the Nutty Train, it's all theirs. They had various photographic ideas of how they would look as a group. And it was very, very useful.
I think that image helped, yeah, a lot, because it does makes you stand out. Right? You know, people would say, oh, can you do that? And then people would try it themselves, which is always quite funny.
Madness came into the pop world at the time when the single, the 7-inch single, the 45 RPM, was king. And they matched and came in with the great pop singles of the age.
It's Madness, the Prince.
We welcome Madness.
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 Mais qu'est-ce que c'est que ça?
C'est le groupe Madness.
Encore? Ah non!
They say stay away. Don't want you home today. Keep away from our door. Don't come round here no more. Our dad don't wanna know. He says this is a serious matter.
I think for Absolutely, we were under a lot of time pressure because we had to record it very quickly to follow up the first album. I think it was a bit more organic. It fell that way, really, more than thinking about moving away from ska.
We didn't know where we were going, but we just realised we just wanted to push ourselves musically a bit more. I mean, ska, reggae always be in our phone. All our records, there's 2 or 3, 4 ska reggae songs. But yeah, just to go push ourselves. So, you know, the Kinks to the Beatles to Harmonies to, you know, brass bands to calypso to jazz, you know, just trying to make it more interesting for ourselves.
I like music that's kind of folk music. And to me, folk music is not people with beards going shush, you know, which a lot of the English folk clubs used to be like. I like music that the songwriting, I like the songwriting. I always tried to get interested in songwriters and also writing about their place in society.
I wasn't there. Don't blame me, it just isn't fair. You listen to their side, now listen to mine. Can't think of a story, sure you'll find me sometime. Now pass the blame and don't blame me.
So Madness, they were the music of Camden Town in my mind. You know, like the Beatles were Liverpool.
It wasn't me either, I'm just his mate. Told me to stand here and watch the gate. I've got a wife and 3 kids, you know. They'll tell you I'm straight, at least I think so.
We would make up the script for the shoot for the video on the day, usually in the morning over a coffee or whatever. And the lines of the lyrics, you know, we were keen. All their songs were very descriptive, and they were always very funny. Marketing-wise, it was fantastic because TV stations would queue up to get the next Madness video. So we would get the best possible TV exposure to a new Madness video.
I wish this bus would get a move on, driver's taking his time. I just don't know, I'll be late, oh dear, what will the boss say? Pull yourself together now, don't get in a state. Don't you worry, there's no hurry. It's a lovely day, could all be going your way.
We've always enjoyed what we do, and we've always had a sort of theatrical element. I think that resonates with the audience, you know.
Good morning, miss, can I help you, son? 16 today, and up for fun. I'm a big boy now, or so they say, so if you'll serve, I'll be on my...
At the time when they did songs like House of Fun, I thought it was a piece of genius because it was sold as like, oh yeah, this is all fun, but it's like, you know, it had a great, interesting lyrical idea about what it means to be grown up and where does that begin, and you know, when do you take responsibility?
Even when it comes to House of Fun or something, it's all like blah 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 blah, but it's about, you know, condoms and things, quite serious situations.
You misunderstood. 16 big boy, full pint in my manhood. I'm up to date on the dates today, so if you serve, I'll be on my way.
Madness always had their roots in British pop, and in the tradition of great British pop, record labels wanted a single, 3 months later, another single, another single, another single, an album, single, single, single. That's what sustained the Beatles, the Kinks, the Stones. Madness had that always. They just had this ability to provide another great song, another great song. And ultimately, despite all the different genres and different styles of music that were happening, Madness always gave you the single-on chorus. And that's essentially what Radio 1 wanted, what Smash Hits wanted, what Top of the Pops wanted.
I've been driving in my car. Takes us near, it takes us far. City, we bought it in Tokyo. City, from a man from Muroran. City, it was made in 18...
音にも聞け、目にも見よ。我こそはターボなり。Honda City Turbo.
When they great, those car adverts, they were great fun. I think you could do anything with that band, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, they're so talented.
But times have changed. The Nutty Boys have grown up. Some, like Suggs, are married with children.
Very hot. Very hot.
They've changed in other ways too. Developed an interest, for instance, in social issues. All this is a far cry from the days when those unfair racist jibes came their way.
I think inherently we all had sort of socialist instincts, but they just weren't. I mean, we were all from pretty working class backgrounds, you know, and been brought up in council flats and state education. So it was kind of inherent that was part of our philosophy. But it just became more apparent as time went on that we were going to say more about it.
I thought I'd done my best all my life. I can't get no rest. Some who close the door before say I can't carry on no more.
Rise and Fall, that album was probably getting a little bit conceptual, and the Kinks were a good example, you know, from Arthur and all those albums. Yeah, they wanted to be more serious. They wanted to be, you know, and they weren't the nutty boys anymore. They were kind of getting into their mid-20s.
As if you pull back Madness to 1979, 1980, they would have found it difficult to articulate what their social and political view were. By the time of Keep On Moving and Mad Not Mad, they had a sense of who they were and the ability to articulate that. And the conclusion of that, in many ways, was them sharing royalties with an organisation like Greenpeace, or going on a tour with socialists like Billy Bragg and Paul Weller and saying, we now stand for this.
Whenever I get home, I tend to look at London a bit nostalgically, maybe, you know, and I started writing this song, One Better Day, and it was all kind of optimistic and jolly. And then the next day, when I was more sober, I kind of looked at it in a different light, you know, and it isn't all kind of jolly and romantic, you know, and I just kind of added a bit of realism, which was the old tramp, which the song is about.
You know, I always say they had sort of politics with a capital P, but we did have politics, but it was a small P.
Walking round you sometimes, hear the sunshine, beating down in time with the rhythm of your shoes.
We were in Halligan's Heap rehearsal rooms, and I said, guys, I'm leaving the band. And there was a sort of shocked silence. And, and that was it, really, yeah. You know, we didn't really, you know, go into too much talk in those days about things, no.
See, it was a massive surprise and very, very difficult, yeah, to take in, really. And I think he felt exhausted at that point, and he felt he needed a rest from it, you know, from the whole thing.
And he just wanted to get out of what he saw as a bit of a kind of rat race of trying to create hits all the time, which we were all feeling a little bit. You know, for all the sort of fun that we were having, we were starting to get a bit bored of that process, you know, of trying to be entertaining all the time. So then you get things like Yesterday's Men, and you get things that are a bit more reflective and down, I suppose.
Because when you're told to stop, how far will you go? When your race is run and you already know, yesterday's man, hang on to today, hang on to sin any old way.
When Mike said he wanted to leave, we should have just stopped and let everyone sort of do their own thing for a bit. Then Mark and Woody went. I mean, should have taken some time, but then inevitably we did take some time out, and that was the best thing that happened from whenever it was till '92.
And now time for some complete madness. The pop group Madness are splitting up after a string of chart successes. They had a zany and jaunty style, which made them one of the most popular bands of recent years.
Madstock is quite an incredible moment in the history of Madness. Not only is it the first time that they play together as a band in 8 years, it's really the first time that they ever celebrate their greatest hits.
I never thought I'd miss you half as much
1992, Madness go to the top of the album charts in the UK because of a compilation album. And here's now an opportunity to play all the songs back to back, the greatest hits for the first time. The concert reached some kind of crescendo of the band realizing what they mean to their fans, and the fans in turn showing their love of what this band has given to them for so many years and hadn't had the opportunity to say, we love you. And the band going back, thank you.
Thank you. My God. There's a lot of people out there. There is. Oh, no. And I know some of them. Yeah.
There's two ways that bands operate. There's bands that have a leader, and there's bands that are a gang, and they have a gang mentality, and they go around and from what I've seen, quite often the bands with the gang mentality last longer, simply because they have a common purpose, which is not even stated, it's not even necessarily written down anywhere, but they have a common purpose and they all know that there is a common purpose.
Everyone throw in their ideas, and even if we don't always agree, you know, it might take a long time. It's much more fun to then come out at the other end with something we've all agreed on than to dictate what you think it should be. You know, that's what I find. Not that I could, because they'd all beat me up.
At 5 to 8, no time to waste, it will not wait. A lay-in that was yesterday, up and atom into the fray. There'll be no time to catch your breath, the enemy of life is dead. So sweep the hallway, mop the wall, your destiny's about to call.
Whenever it's the social club, for instance, I seen, a long time ago now, I don't know if he's still alive, is he Ibram Ferrer, whatever his name is? They come on stage with 2 walking sticks. He must have been 80. And he threw them in the air and he started dancing. And I thought, you know where these people are from? They're from Havana in Cuba. Do you know what I mean? They couldn't be from anywhere else. And that is what I mean about madness. It couldn't be from anywhere else, you know, for better or for worse.
And I think the realization comes in 2 really major events where Madness are crowned as national treasures by the people of the nation. The first one is when they are invited to perform at the 2012 Olympic ceremony. And then, of course, they end up playing on top of the Queen's roof of Buckingham Palace.
With the Jubilee, they had the idea of what they wanted to do, and it sounded really, really good. With the projection, they were projecting on Buckingham Palace, and we would go on the roof.
I remember when everything was true, and when we would have such a very good time, such a fine time, such a happy time. And I remember how we played Super the Voices their way, then we'd say.
We were playing on a sort of scaffolding platform, and there were the snipers were just like lined up along the roof. And they were all like joggling along while sort of like kind of...
Our house, in the middle of our street, our house, in the middle of one's street.
And it was an amazing night, yeah. It really was.
You realise, as much as The royal family is part of British culture as much as stately homes are British culture, or Shakespeare. So are the Beatles, and now so are Madness. And they hold that reverence and that status, and it's richly deserved for everything that they've given to the nation, because simply they've just given us joy through pop music.
Lots of girls and lots of boys. A lot of smell, a lot of noise. Playing football in the park. Kicking push bikes after dark.